So this is the feed crop here that was seeded into the triticale, and it was seeded on the 15th of July, and we had some Goliath, grass of radish, some turnip, sweet clover, Italian ryegrass, millet and oats seeded into that mix. We do quite a bit of swath grazing out there, so we graze some of the standing and we swath some of it too. So that's what we want to be targeting, feed like this for our finishing stock on the grass feed side. Yep.
Seeding that crop, broadcasted or?
We seed it with a drill, and we just put it in the ground. Yeah, just normal. We've got a smaller 20-foot drill that we use for seeding that kind of thing. Yeah, we seed everything shallow. So all the turnip seed needs to be shallow. If we're seeding cereals mixed with any of these, we always seed the ultimate for the small seed. So what's that? No, we'll use a separate box. Yeah, otherwise if we put it all in the same box, the seed will separate, especially if it's too big. Yeah. So we've got a smaller tank for our smaller fine seed, and then our cereal seed goes in its own tank, ends up going down the same chute. But yeah, we seed everything shallow. Yep.
Question?
Yep.
Just curious why you're swathing, the cost of swathing versus not doing it. Is there benefit?
There is to us out there. We swath it so that we can push it further into the winter. And if we get snow on it, then it's kind of in a swath lying on the ground. Yeah. But to my understanding, you can't do that out here. Yeah, you can't do that in New Zealand either. So that was a new concept for me when I got to Alberta was the swath grazing. Yeah, but we're doing less swath grazing, I guess, than we used to because we're leaving a lot more of this crop standing as well. So here's some late summer, autumn. We move into some more of our annual crops. So these are some forage brassicas. This is a Winfred rape here. And we'll rotationally graze on these sort of from the mid part of summer, right through into the start of winter or even into winter we'll push them into. But we're getting over 2 pounds a day on our yearlings and 3 to 4 rotations on it, depending on the season. And so we're targeting 350 plus pounds of beef an acre. So diversity, so we want to keep something green and growing all the time. So we use a mix of warm season grasses, cool season grasses, forage brassicas, and keep them green and growing. And they hold their feed value really well. A lot of the brassicas that we're using, they'll stand up in snow and a really good feed quality. So they're worth digging for if we do get snow. And diversity, that helps with the different seasons. So, if we have a really wet year, the warm season grasses are probably not going to do very well, but all our cool season grasses are going to do well. We've had drought situations where our warm season grasses really flourish, and then when we do get the rains, the cool seasons, they start catching up, and we get a good blend and good diversity, different root systems in the ground, which really helps. So silage and regrowth, so we do quite a bit of silage as well. We're doing less and less as we do more of the winter standing and swath grazing. But this was a real opportunity I could see for us to extend our growing season, was to be growing extra feed where we were doing our silage. So typically, we'd cut it in end of July, and then those fields would sit there for the next 2 or 3 months if we were growing straight cereals, and we'd have nothing growing. So now we incorporate some Italian ryegrass and some other different species in with our silage as well. We get that seeded, we cut our silage off, and then we get into regrowth out of that crop that's already in there, and that's extending the grazing days on those acres for the rest of the year. So this photo here, I guess, it's got some there's some leafy turnip and some Italian ryegrass. We got an extra 40 pear days an acre off that land that we would have otherwise got nothing. Adding extra tonnage and quality to our silage, and we're getting weed control with that too, because we've got a live living plant that's already in the ground, and basically as soon as that silage is off, this stuff starts regrowing. So then that's low cost additional feed too. So there's just a few photos, some silage crop and some regrowth in the front there. So winter and autumn feed crops. So working to our strengths out there in Western Canada, you know, we can do the swath grazing. So we'll cut crops down, leave them on the ground, and then we'll strip graze those over the winter. Not sure what happened there.
You're not burning that off with Roundup or nothing?
No, we're not. No, we're not. We'll burn off before we seed. Yeah, we'll burn off before we seed with Roundup. We can, yeah. On the organic side we can't, but on conventional side, typically do a burn off. Is the mic still working? Oh, yeah. Okay, well I'll keep talking then. Yeah, burn it off with Roundup. But as you get more and more of a diverse mix, I guess, you know, you're pretty limited to what you can in-crop spray. You know, I mean, with a lot of the mixes that we're using, we can't in-crop spray anything. Our weed control, which we haven't actually had to revert to yet, but our weed control, if it was really bad, is just to silage it and stick it in a pit. So yeah, if it was really bad, stick it in the pit, feed it to the cows, and just start that cycle again. So we're doing, I guess here's the next one. So swath or standing, so you know, swathing works in our area. We're doing less of it, basically just to save the cost of swathing is more so. We're getting good utilisation by leaving it standing. But the swath, you know, at this time of year, I guess if that feed is kept in a swath for us, it does keep better. But pretty much up until now, when it's still cold, there's not a whole lot of difference between leaving it standing and having it in a swath. For us, having it in a swath, if we got 3 or 4 feet of snow, then you know it would be congested, and once the cows dug down to it, they'd be on a row. But standing works just as good if you're typically not getting 3 or 4 feet of snow. So this is one of our intended 2-year mixes that we're looking at to try and reduce some costs and on our annual cropping side. So we're looking at putting some rape, some Goliath rape, Winford rape, turnips, forage oats, and spring triticale. So those are going to be our 1-year plants. But at the same time, we're going to be seeding the 2-year plants. So in the spring, we'll be seeding the winter triticale, the yellow blossom sweet clover, which we've done quite a lot with, the hairy vetch, the Italian ryegrass, and some chicory. And that's just to get us through into that second year. It's worked good with the sweet clover in the past, but we want to add a bit more diversity. We've been limited with the sweet clover, pretty much silaging it because we grow so much bulk at once, putting it in a pit. But with some other diversity in there, diverse crops, we've got gives us better options for grazing or silaging, or hopefully we get growth throughout the rest of that second year with those species as well. So we're just playing around with this mix. We haven't got proven results on it yet, but this is sort of what we're working towards. So quality and biomass, I guess, is what we're trying to grow. And quality forages for wintering pears. So we've just finished weaning our calves now, and the guys are just weaning the last mob on them away. So we leave pears on right through the winter, and basically fence line wean them now. And one of the main reasons for that originally was to reduce all the stresses that typically weaning in November had. We had the feed change, we had winter and cold change, and then we had the weaning process. And then typically they were going into a feedlot, so confinement and trucking as well. So we had all of those happening all at once. So now we've spread them out. We get them onto those swaths or onto our winter feed, keep them on the cow. As long as we've got good quality feed, which we're targeting, then we're able to do that and still get gain on our calves at that time. So that works really good, and then the final separation, I guess we're weaning between this is a 2 or 3 wire electric fence, and so there's 300 pairs there, cows on the left and calves on the right, and that's how we do it. So pretty much by now they've weaned themselves. They're not drinking a whole lot of milk. They're eating mostly most of their intake is forage, so it works quite well. The calves themselves don't actually worry too much. It's more the cows that stand at the fence and they're trying to find their calf by the end of the day. But it works pretty good for us. So late summer seeded is another thing, so double cropping. So this year, basically our seed drill was running for most of the year. We're getting our spring crops in, then we were getting our forage crops in autumn, and then our autumn crops and some throughout the summer. So it pretty much just kept going. So that's some sweet clover on the left there that we silaged, and then we went straight in behind that with the seed drill, and we drilled some oats and some radish into that, and then we got extra grazing out of that we otherwise, in the old system wouldn't have had. The same year we had a wheat crop that wasn't going to be worth combining, so we stuck that in the pit, and then we also went in and seeded some oats and radish into that too. So we got extra production instead of just sitting there waiting for the wheat crop to maybe do something. We made the decision to get it out. We can utilise it with the cows and grow some extra feed as well. So biannual crop, so we're looking at more and more of that. So sweet clover is a big one. We're pretty big on our legumes, so we want to get as much of that nitrogen that's in the atmosphere and get that into the ground so we can utilise it with future crops. So I'll just touch on this. So we set up self-feed silage pits. Is how we feed about 90% of our silage. So we'll make these in the field where the silage is made, or we'll do it in conjunction with some of our standing crops or our swath grazing crops. So we're saving some costs there is sort of the big idea with that. So less hauling, less tractor usage, less labour. We use it in conjunction with some, we do bale grazing out there or swath grazing to get that manure spread out on the field so it's not too congested. And any manure build-up that we do get around there, will it's easy to take it to where it needs to be spread. And quality feed is really important on that to reduce our wastage.
How do you avoid the mud hole doing that?
How do we avoid
Or maybe I'm not used to Westford much, but if I was to do that, you're letting the cattle self-feed?
Yep.
Doesn't it get muddy?
Yeah, so they do this in New Zealand as well. So New Zealand would be quite similar to here, I think, with getting more mud. If we have a really warm winter or a warm stretch in the winter, it can get pretty muddy around that site. The one advantage, I guess, is that face is always moving. So your utilisation might go down a little bit, but that face is always moving. So we're down to probably about 5% wastage or less than 5%. On really good quality feed. But for a lot of our winter out there, it's basically like feeding on a concrete pad. So that is a difference. So I think out here, your utilisation, you might not quite utilise as much, I guess, as what we could out there. But I would compare it to a New Zealand system where they do. So with my calculations on this for our farm, we can waste 20% of our feed before it's cost effective to start feeding that by using a tractor and a loader and feeding it out, and especially if we've got those cattle in confinement feeding. So we're no way near wasting 20%, but that's kind of the threshold, I guess, where we've got to start looking at it. Well, actually, it's costing us more to do that.
How do you deal with frozen stuff on top of the pile?
Frozen stuff on top, we just knock that off. If it gets really bad and we have to take a tractor there, once a week we might have a tractor there just to sort of reshape the pit a little bit. But typically, if we're knocking it off every day, because the pit's probably moving about a foot, so just walking along, knocking it off with an axe, and then we're normally pretty good to go. What's that?
Kind of just move over the top of the frozen stuff.
Oh yeah, if it just falls on the ground, if there's chunks here, we'll kick it out of the way. Yeah. It's not typically a huge problem, but if we put up poor quality feed, it will get that wastage. Yeah. High sugars is really good. For high sugar feed, you'll get less freezing. Yeah.
After you're done feeding the plow, is it like bale grazing? Like next year it comes up a lot greener and more fertile, or is it kind of a burn spot?
Yeah, there's pretty much where we've got the pit. There's more of a burn spot than anything. But it's only a small area. If we need to go and work it up or do something, or maybe if we want to build another pit in that same area, we'll just do it on the same site. So yeah, but it's not quite like bale grazing, but we get all those nutrients, I guess, spread out around the paddocks that they are grazing in at the same time. Yeah. So then bale grazing is the other one. Works good out west. I'm told it doesn't work quite so well here, which is probably understandable. But what guys are actually doing in New Zealand, they're wrapping, I don't know, I've seen a few wrapped bales driving around the place, wrapped bales and having those wrapped bales spotted out, individually wrapped, and then just cutting the plastic from the outside of them and feeding them out that way. So guys are doing that in New Zealand, so yeah, it may work here as well. No, but the bale grazing is a really good way, or any imported feed, I guess, that you can get onto your farm. I mean, we work on, there's at least $25 worth of nutrients that we're importing with every bale, so that's pretty significant, and to capture those nutrients back onto your land. So I'll just run through this. How much time have we got? Tim, are we
5 minutes.
on track? Okay. I'll go through this. It won't take you long, but I just wanted to cover a bit of the soil side of what we're about, because it's really a big part of what we're trying to do on our farm, and sort of how we benchmark what we're doing. So for a start, our crop rotation got a big influence by the soil. So year one, we've got older pastures that we're taking out of production. We've got 15, 20-year-old pastures. Ideally, we'll get those down to a 5 to 6 year perennial, and then we'll be back into a crop cycle. But for the first year, we're taking out existing grass or alfalfa. We're grazing it until the middle of summer. We're breaking that land up or spraying it, and going in and direct seeding a multi-species grazing mix. And then using that as autumn feed to stretch our autumn period. So we're looking to still get 300 pounds off that acre by breaking it up, and that helps offset some of those costs for that first year. And then we'll graze that in the autumn, and then year two we're going into a cereal crop, and we're playing around with seeding some legumes and stuff into cropping with that as well, just to help get some nitrogen in the ground. And that's also going to extend our grazing season. If we can combine that crop and have some forage there at the end of the year that we can put our cattle on, then that's really what we're going to be looking to do. So we're looking at 2 to 3 years. 3 years is going to be the most in a straight cropping situation, and then we're going to be going into a 5+ year perennial. So we want a really good, healthy alfalfa stand or healthy legume stand. When we take that out of production, we want to look at that stand and say, why are we taking that out of production? That's the best stand we've got. In my mind, that's the time that we need to be taking it out of production, and we'll be going into our 2-year crop cycle, utilising as much of that nitrogen that those legumes have fixed to help that crop for those next 2 years, and start that cycle again. So, getting some of that biology and stuff working on that land by having the cattle involved in it. So we don't have any segregated cropping or any segregated cattle land. We have done in the past, but as we incorporate this rotation and move around our farm, that's basically the idea is every acre is available for either cropping or cattle, and we can hopefully get the best out of it by doing that. So our regenerative system, I guess, regenerative and soil focused, short annual cropping, followed by 5 to 6 years of perennial, aiming for reduced tillage. So on our organic side, that's going to be the tough one. On a conventional side, you can do a no-till system. So on the organic side, we're really looking to reduce our tillage as much as we can. If we can eliminate it, that'll be fantastic, but at this stage we haven't got that system working yet. Growing companion crops as well, so clovers and legumes with our cereal crops, just to put more focus on that soil. And the use of winter crops as well, to keep something growing throughout the winter time and have it living in the soil. So this is a pretty interesting fact. For every 1% increase in organic matter gives us 25,000 gallons of available water, of water holding capacity. So that's just under an inch of water. I know where I'm from, both it's in our Saskatchewan place and Hardisty. That's really important. That's like 10% of our rainfall, I guess, and we want to capture as much of that as we can. And even if you're in a wet area, I was talking to some guys in Manitoba, and they kind of looked at this and thought, "Shit, we don't want to do that. We've got enough water." But this is really important for water infiltration. So if you can build up your organic matter, it's going to retain that water. It's going to stop it flooding off, and you know, causing the flooding, I guess, that you know is happening around the place. So healthy soils hold on and release nutrients, hold on and release water. They've got great structure, full of life, microbes and bacteria in there, continually evolving and ever increasing. And healthy soils are going to grow healthy, nutrient-dense crops and animals to go with it. So regenerative, building soils. So that's supposed to be just another slide there. Avoiding bare ground and focusing on returning enough into the ground to feed those bugs and microbes. And what grows up must grow down. So understanding the relationship, I guess, of what's happening above the ground and what impact that's having below the ground. And let there be life. So just as much bugs, worms, and things. You know, we're seeing a lot more worms on our place now in quite a short time. You know, I don't know if that's just because we're actually looking for them more or not, and paying more attention. But you know, we definitely see more than we used to. So enhancing ground cover. And the benefits to go with that, so you know, resilience, productivity, good animal and plant health, reduced need for inputs, reduced costs, and with any luck, a better bottom line out of that. And integrating the cattle in the cropping to improve nutrient cycling. So we keep the cattle out of the feedlot, keep them out on the on the pasture land or the crop land over winter. Get that manure where it needs to be. We're able to better utilise that manure too. You know, the most important stuff is the urine that typically runs off. So you know, getting it out in the field, we can utilise it at lands, and it's immediately plant available as well. And using the cattle to spread it saves some costs. Also, just on the integration side, you know, utilising some of the cropland, some of the neighbours' cropland is what we're using. You know, fencing it off. You know, we'll pay some grazing to have them on there. In our area, on a quarter section of land, 160 acres, there's approximately 20 acres on each quarter that's not cropped. It's trees or around the edges, or there'll be slough bottoms. So we can utilise that with the cattle, whereas they can't. So getting that integration to work between the cropping and the cattle side. And I'll just touch on this as a program that we use on the farm for recording all our information. It's a full farm map. It'll locate you anywhere on the farm, and we record a lot of information as well. And also for tasking, for you know, we have a lot of seasonal workers that turn up and don't know where they're going, so we can just set them up on their phone. So I just wanted to put that in there. It's called AgriMaps. It actually works really good for us. So could be a valuable tool for you guys as well. So important things that we've learned. So work with nature, not against it. Find the things that work in your system and take them to the next level. Don't be afraid of change. Work smarter, not harder, and understand your decision and evaluate your decisions and find the positives in your situation and take them to the next level. So, and the 3 legs of sustainability, environmental, economical and social. So without all of those 3 working together, it's not going to take long for that stool to topple over. So it's the same on our operation too. We're always thinking about those 3 things and getting them working together. So there, I'll leave you with that. Yep, any questions? Yep.
Could you just tell me a little bit how you manage late winter into spring before anything's growing yet, forage is running down, the fields are wet, and you don't want the cattle going in and mucking the fields up? How do you guys manage that?
We'll put them on perennial pastures. Yep, we basically we'll take them off our winter feeding systems on the cropland and put them onto our perennial pastures, and we rotate really quickly at that first time, so that we're not making if it's really wet on those perennial pastures, we're not making a mess. Yeah.